Welcome to the Tempo Project. We are a collaboration of musicians, social scientists, and physical scientists from the United States and Japan who are working together to change the emotional climate about climate change. We promote action, communicate viable solutions, and better understand the risks we face from climate change through the emotional power of music. Tempo is also a network of talented people coming from different disciplines. We have climate scientists who understand what is happening in the atmosphere and also what is needed to change this situation. We have social scientists who understand the behavioral barriers to climate action, the emotions that keep us from acting. And we have musicians who can engage people with the emotions that will lead to action. Tempo is a bridge that connects cultures, particularly Japan and the United States, and others around the world, in a cross-cultural collaboration. Tempo is also a meeting place, a place where we can share ideas. With the Tempo team, we are discussing themes like how emotions drive decisions about risk and how music can affect these emotions. We are talking about the stories we need for solutions to climate change and the stories of community, because it is only as a community that we can create the needed change. These are some of the highlights of those conversations and ongoing explorations presented by the Tempo people themselves.
People, I think, have tended to view climate change as something that happens somewhere else, to other people far away from us, and also, not now, maybe some distant point in the future. Well, more and more we're realizing that it is happening right now, and also impacts us as well as people on the other side of the world.
People need to feel they can make a difference. So you can perceive all the threat in the world and you can feel very, very scared about something, but you're not going to act if you don't feel that you or the people around you or your country can do anything about it. So that perception of efficacy, that perception of being able to do something is important too.
The music can go from sadness to joy and give you that sense of movement or progress. And this could be important, trigger a trajectory of hope. We have the warnings now. Now we need action. And music motivates action.
You've got to capture people's attention in the first place, so I think music can do that in different ways. One of the big things about Tempo, as I see it, is educating musicians, teaching musicians about how the human mind works, how music, emotion, affect, that faint whisper of emotion can all be key in motivating these actions.
The musicians already know a lot about the power they have to move audiences. I mean, they go out there in front of an audience and they get them all charged up and exciting, and the audience is jumping up and down and cheering. And the only thing that I would tell them is, you've got great power, and we need you to use that power to motivate action, because we're not acting. And if we wait much longer, it'll be too late.
It can allow people to engage in the feeling, and it can be participatory as well. It's not just about watching. That gives you a sense of belonging, that sense of collective.
Music certainly creates energy. And of course, we need that energy and that strength to act and hopefully do important things.
I think one reason we don't take climate change seriously is because we haven't faced up to what the human impact is going to be. We're threatening the fundamental humanity of everybody. And I think we need to keep focused on that. We have to feel at risk. We have to have the emotional belief that we're at risk. We also have to have this emotional belief that we can make a difference.
Last few years, we experiencing different kind of rainstorm or like super typhoons, and every year people dies and every year people lose houses. When we watch the TV, when we watch the weather news, they explain about another huge disaster might happen, so please be careful. But they never talk about climate change, and they never talk about the connection.
We're used to thinking of disasters that are something that happen very suddenly, where climate change is a century. Because it's a century, we have a different emotional wiring about it. If we had the emotional impact of that really sudden earthquake, we wouldn't be tolerating all of the things that are happening.
The agriculture, for example, for them, it's very difficult years, or last few years, really feeling the impact of the temperature and the climate change that it's difficult to deal with. But people just eating the fish and drinking the wine or eating whatever the agriculture we get are separated from them, that we don't really feel the impact yet.
To focus change, we have to have music that is shared by a lot of people. I think the way you get change is because you do it together.
The music also could make you really positive about that we still can do it, that we need to do it, we need to change the future.
It seems so obvious that this has the potential to literally destroy the world, and we can't seem to take it seriously. And when we try to talk about the science, that just doesn't connect with most people. And it's back to this understanding that we don't make decisions about risk or about change or about danger for any intellectual reasons. We can justify it with our intellectual reasons, but we have to feel it to take action.
Music is really literally beyond words, and because it's so much more than our conscious thoughts, it goes to our very primitive part of our brain. It's very emotional, and emotions are what determines our actions. And so that's why I think for tempo, music really should be the first art form that we use to mobilize the critical mass of world citizens to climate action.
For me personally, you cannot think of the civil rights movement's success without the music. You know, the songs, quoting Bernice Johnson Reagan, the songs were the bedrock of the movement. They sang a song called "Come and Go With Me to That Land, Come and Go With Me to That Land." But I think in the past, it might have been an image of heaven. So a different world, a better world, but not here, somewhere else. And I think what they were realizing in the civil rights movement is we have to make that better world here. We will go to that better land here. Somehow the music takes you into a place maybe where you believe anything can happen. And I think that's the place that we are trying to find in tempo also. I think that joy is actually really important, that joy powers the movement, because that is what makes us want to get up and live and do things.
We are totally on the same wavelength. Music, speaking of neuroscience, right, it induces all sorts of really great hormones in our brains, right? It activates the oxytocin, it activates dopamine, serotonin, all these feel-good hormones. Like Sean says, this is going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is going to be decades to come, right? And so it needs to be sustainable. And what sustains us better than joy?
Yeah, somehow making music together does do this magical, mysterious thing among the people singing, but also among the people listening.
It's really amazing because I didn't believe it until I saw it myself. But so when we sing together, or when we dance together, or when we are even just listening to music together, our biorhythms start synchronizing, right?
Yeah.
And so our heartbeats start synchronizing with each other's, and of course our breathing with the phrasing of the music, right? But even our brain waves, right? I mean, you can see this. It's unbelievable.
Our world is very interconnected, and yet I think there's so much farther to go in what we can do together. I think we have no idea what we can actually accomplish together.
I think that music can create an emotional clarity where it may be missing from a visual image, for example. And I think that music can also create mood and atmosphere to help enhance other modes of communication.
The solutions to climate change in a broad level are fairly straightforward. There are a lot of things that we do know how to do. They're not easy. Just because we know how to do them, they're quite hard. There are also a number of things that we don't know how to do. But if we let that be an excuse to not try and change the things that we do know how to do, we're just going to continue to push the problem down the road.
I guess we should start at awareness. And this is something where music can certainly play a role as well, helping to spread awareness. Music in film is also a storyteller. The dialogue in film may be telling a story, the actors may be telling a story, and the music is working with them to deepen that story and come at it from a slightly different angle. I think similarly with work in the sciences, stories to be told, concepts to be expressed.
We won't be successful if we don't convince through stories and music and anything that can evoke that emotion. We won't convince the regulators, the policymakers, the large companies to make a change. And similarly, we won't convince them to make a change unless we can show them the science and the technology that are going to be useful for that. And so in that sense, I think we're also storytellers, right? The science that I do, the technology that we develop is trying to convince people that there's an alternative narrative.
To be able to come at that from a musical side, I think has the potential to deepen how human beings can receive information when it's being delivered in multiple different modes.
People who can combine the emotion of the music with the emotion of the story that they're telling with their words, I think is extra compelling.
When you have an artist who is feeling something passionately and communicating that feeling to you through their work, that's extremely powerful.
I think in Western thought, when you talk about community, you are focusing on people, and nature is just a context. But in our tradition, if we are talking about community, we include both human beings and nature. If we cite some ideas from our traditional stories, nature is already included in the story. But if we think about the story or music in the city, we have to intentionally include some sounds or silence of nature, yes.
Music has been like a really powerful tool for me to overcome important barriers when it comes to sending important preparedness messages. Working with music helps draw people's attention. It's easier for people to remember the content that's in a song. It's an effective vehicle for information. It also helps tell a story.
If we persuade new issue in our society, I think one way is to persuade them logically or scientifically. The other one is more emotionally. They take action not only because they understand the scientific knowledge, but also because they believe that action is correct.
Thinking from the perspective of tempo, which is exploring the potential of music to raise awareness and to drive climate action, there's a connection with emotions. So in a way, it's like a shortcut to make communications more effective, to reach more people, to build trust easily.
Generally, we lose the views of future, focus on business benefit for the short term. So we have to change or shift their interest from short-term business to long-term view of future.
We hope you found these conversations as inspiring as we do. Naturally, Tempo is also a place where we share our passion for music and explore what is most effective to not just raise awareness about the climate crisis, but also to inspire action to help solve the crisis. What works? What doesn't? Our next challenge are the dialogues, live sessions in which we explore scientific questions and experiment with music and see how the music and science come together. We hope that these dialogues will lead us to the Tempo Music Festival. If you are a musician, a social scientist, or a climate scientist and want to be part of Tempo, please reach out to us. We invite you to visit our website, tempo-music.org, and to follow us on social media. And of course, we leave you with some music.
Préparez-nous, c'est le cycle d'hiver.